What is your biggest pet peeve?
You see, the thing about peeves is they make bad pets.
Oh my gosh.
You want the American dream. You want the life, the liberty, the happiness. But until you get there, until you achieve your goals and make your dreams come true, you know what you have. You have the journey, the hustle, the climb. I'm Kelsey Humphreys, and this is The Pursuit, where I interview the best of the best in person on their home turf about how they got started, how they got to where they are today, and what you can learn from them about success. Prepared to be inspired, equipped, motivated, encouraged, and have a lot of fun.
Kelsey, are you ready?
I'm ready. Thank you for joining me for another episode of The Pursuit. In this episode, I got to sit down with one of today's true geniuses, Seth Godin, which was intimidating anyway. But when I got there and I said that I was going to try and talk about, his journey and what worked for him, he said that he doesn't like to talk about himself. And so on the fly, I was rewording my questions that I had prepared to make them more general and about the ideas and the concepts instead of being about him. But he was so kind, so gracious. Apparently, he really loves cereal and he really loves dark chocolate, which he offered to us over and over again while we were there. He is just as cool as you would assume. And I know that you will get so much wisdom and hopefully some new insights that you haven't heard before from this interview with Seth Godin. Thank you so much for letting us come here and talk to you today.
It's a beautiful day here by the Hudson River, and I
is.
appreciate your company. Thanks for making the trip.
Well, what I like to kind of start with for my guests is the beginning. People who have found you in the last couple years may not even know that originally you were an entrepreneur who founded a business that was then bought by Yahoo for like around $30 million, I read, which that in itself is something huge that people aspire to. So I wanted to kind of start there and see what your advice would be for someone who is hoping to do the same thing, to build an online company that then gets purchased, and what were the keys to that success you had?
Well, it's great to dive right in. I would start by saying, if those are your goals, you need new goals.
Oh,
those weren't my goals. I don't know anyone who has succeeded who had those as their goals. Mm-hmm. I started working on the internet. I had my first email address in 1976 when I was 16, but I started doing it professionally in 1989. And in 1989, it was Prodigy and CompuServe and things like that. I helped invent email as we know it today. I was there early on in a lot of this work. And never once did I say to myself or the people around me, let's do this because the internet's going to be a big thing and we'll be able to sell our company. Mm-hmm. Never once did I say, let's do this because it's the most lucrative thing I can think of. The people I see who are doing this hustle thing and who are trying to hack the thing, you never meet those people at the other end where they say, wow, that was the right path for me and I'm going to keep doing it. Mm-hmm. That the people who set out to use commerce as a way to change the culture in a positive way, those people can keep doing it forever. I'm not keeping score of stock price or web traffic or how many zeros are in one pile or another. And I couldn't strongly enough state that that's not a good route.
I love that you did just jump right in. Hope you guys are prepared for this interview because that was an awesome answer. A recurring theme in a lot of your interviews is learning to see things. And one thing you attribute to that for you is just time. It took you decades to get there. But, like aspiring marketers or entrepreneurs or people who want to make an impact, I want to learn how to see, Yeah. Do you have any advice for us to learn quicker than just time?
Here's one of my favorite stories. There used to be this pink slip called While You Were Out. Now, you might be old enough to remember that, but some people aren't. Mm-hmm. So someone would call before there was voicemail, and a human being would write down the message.
Yes.
So my first job, it's 1983, and I walk in, and there's only 40 people in the company. I was the 30th hire. So there were 30 people in the company. I walk in, and there's a round piece of plastic. You can still buy it at Staples. And it has 30 slots in it, and a name written on each slot. So what would happen is if you weren't in, the receptionist would write down the message and put it in your thing. And then you'd get back from lunch and you'd spin until you found your name. and then you would take your messages and go back to your desk. You can imagine this, right?
Yeah.
So it's my first day at work. I get back from lunch. I see this thing, and I say, I don't want to do this every single time I come back from lunch. So I took a paperclip from her paperclip bin, and I put a paperclip next to my name. So now, when I came back from lunch, all I'd have to do is spin to the paperclip, and I'd have my message. Within 2 days, there were flags, there were stickers, everyone had put something on their name. Perfect.
Yeah.
Why did it take the 24-year-old who it was his first day to do this? And the answer is, my posture is, if I see something that looks a little broken, I say, why is that broken? How could I make that better? And then I try it. And if it makes it better, I learn something. And if it doesn't make it better, no one was harmed, and I take the paperclip off. That's how you learn how to see. You learn how to see by making predictions. If you want to be a stockbroker, don't go trade stocks. Spend 1 month highlighting the stocks you think are going to go up. And then see if you were right a month from now. It costs you nothing.
Right.
Right?
I imagine that you spend a lot of time observing and reading and consuming. But I had heard you in another interview talk about all of this consuming is keeping us from doing scary work, which
Correct.
I thought was amazing. An amazing quote. So do you still ever find yourself keeping yourself from doing scary work? I know you don't tweet, but doing other things?
All the time.
Really?
All the time. So I have to have a few bright lines. I don't watch television, and I don't go to meetings. So I have 7 more hours every day than everybody else.
Wow.
And in those 7 hours, if I do 2 hours of productive work and 5 hours of walking around noticing things, that's a good day.
Can you tell us kind of what like an average day or week is like, or what you think an average day or week should be like to foster innovation and creativity?
I don't have an average day on purpose. I don't think creativity is the goal. I think the goal is connection and trust. If you have more connection and trust tomorrow than you have today, you're moving forward. If you have a lot of connection and trust, you will never have trouble making a living. You will never have trouble making a difference. You need to be more connected and more trusted. So I could give you 100 ways to increase your traffic and your follower count online, all of which will cost you trust. So don't do them, because you've increased one thing, connection, but decreased the other one, trust. I can think of a whole bunch of things you can do in the small that might earn you trust, but won't earn you connection with the kind of people you need to be connected to. So the purpose of being creative, the purpose of solving problems, is so that you can generously give those insights away, because people like it when you do that, and then they'll become more connected with you. And if your work meets the promises you make for it, they will trust you more. So if you create this pattern of regularly doing interesting work, doing edgy work, where you become more trusted because you are earning connection, you come out ahead. So I'm not saying be a freelancer who works for free, because giving away your work for free doesn't make you more trusted, it just makes you cheaper. Right? The goal is to have work that no one else can do. That's so important to other people that they will happily pay extra for it because no one else can do it. And that is what we hide from. We would rather read a dummy's book, follow the manual, bid for a project on Elance, figure out how to race to the bottom, than to say, here, I made this.
So do you still get scared sometimes?
Only if I'm doing good work.
So yes. So you talk about connection, but what's interesting is that, you're not on Instagram, you don't tweet, and, a lot of probably, I'm guessing, people tell you like, well, your tribe would love it if, you would engage and all of that sort of thing. So maybe talk about, are we going to see Seth selfies in the future? Or do you think you'll keep going with just the blog? Or
Well, so let me try to answer the question a different way. I would argue that most people on Instagram would not be missed if they disappeared from Instagram. A few would be missed, but most people who are following 100 people would say, oh, now I'm following 99 people. I would argue that most people who tweet all the time would not be missed if they stopped tweeting. And I know this because I use Twitter under another name just to see how it works, since I'm not like a Luddite. And you can see people disappear, but they don't disappear from the planet. They just stop telling you what they have for breakfast. And guess what? That wasn't really a connection. That was just sort of a little buzzing in my ear. We don't need to buzz in people's ears to be connected to them. But what I know is that books change the world. Books make people cry. Twitter rarely does. Twitter isn't that. Twitter is CB radio. And that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. And it's a fine hobby. But I don't know very many people who have built a useful foundation of connection on the basis of clever, sarcastic tweets.
Right. So you mentioned, that books really connect with people, make people cry. That's obviously how I connected with you, and a lot of people connected with you. And I love when you talk about your 900 rejections, because a lot of people don't talk about their rejections. So it's super refreshing for me and everyone else. And I heard in a recent interview that you did, that the key was your email, that pitch was changing, so that even if you got the rejection, that person wanted to hear your next idea, which is amazing. And I want to know how you did that and how I can do it.
Well, you were dating me. There was no email. These involved stamps and pieces of paper. And so you would send out a book proposal printed that may have taken, one of my proposals took 4 years to write. And you would send it out to a select group of 10 or 20 people with a stamp. And then you would wait and you would wait and you would wait. And sometimes a month later, you would get a letter back saying, we're not going to go ahead and do this. The challenge was, at the beginning, I didn't understand the worldview, the mindset of the person who, for a living, acquired books from a big publishing house. Now, again, this is mostly irrelevant because most people don't get their books acquired by big publishing houses. But once I understood the kind of person they wanted to buy a book from and the kind of book they wanted to buy, I was able to speak their language. And so they would say to me, this book isn't for us. We published a book like it 2 years ago. It didn't work. Or this book isn't for us. My publisher is allergic to something, whatever it is, right? But we hope you'll let us know about the next one, because they understood I was a professional and they were professionals. So today, if I was starting out, I wouldn't send anything to New York. I'd publish on the Kindle because I don't have to please anybody except my reader. And given that today's author has to market their work anyway, might as well market it directly. Then the question is, well, making a book isn't the hard part. The hard part of making a book is there are more than 1 million books published a year now. Of the 1 million books published a year, and only 50 million people are going to read any books at all. The average American buys 1 book a year. How do I let these people know I wrote a book? And the answer is not put your book in the world and then jump up and down and hope that people will notice you, because that doesn't work.
Right.
The answer is not to yell louder than everybody else. The answer is to have earned connection. 5 people, 10 people, 20 people, 50 people, 100 people, 1,000 people. Then by the time you're on the 8th cycle, now there's 10,000 people who say, well, I haven't heard from him yet. I wonder if there's a new book. And you tell them there's a new book, and they all go buy it the same day. That is what we earn today, not the privilege of getting a gatekeeper to buy our stuff.
Mike Loomis wrote in about books, and he asked if you thought that people were getting digital burnout and that there might be a resurgence of physical book sales.
Okay, so in the other room here, I've got vinyl records. They have sold more vinyl records every year, each year for the last 5 years. Vinyl record sales are the only kind of media, music media, that's going up. Even so, vinyl record sales are essentially a rounding error because it's just a hassle to play them and everything else. Books are in a similar category. It's really hard to imagine a big resurgence of the book. There's going to be a small one, just like there was for LPs. But it's hard for me to imagine someone who stopped reading books going back to the habit that I still have of buying 2 or 3 a week, because the bookstore is the key to the whole thing.
Right.
And Amazon has made it so that every book is 1 click away, which is great. But guess what? When you're 1 click away from a book, you're also 1 click away from your email. You're also 1 click away from a movie.
So how do you push out the distractions?
Well, I've wrestled with ADD since before it had a name. And lucky for me, the universe showed up in a way that rewards people who are good at distractions, right? That if I lived in the 1100s and had a scribe like a monk, they would have fired me after an hour,
Yeah.
right? But now we live in this multi-screen, blah, blah, blah world. So what I do is I'm in one of 2 modes. Either I'm in, oh look, a puppy mode. And that's good for people who notice things for a living. Or I'm in the mode of, this project's important and it's promised, let's focus. And then I focus as well as anyone you know. And a lot of people with ADD are exactly the same way. So the problem that distracted people have is school teachers and bosses who don't want them to look at puppies. But if you work in an environment where it's okay to look at puppies, you discover that you can then find the thing that you need to obsess about. And now we're moving back to this environment that's more open. And so that the people who are good at putting together patterns and stuff should go do that. Because we don't need more people to patiently put part A into slot B. We got robots to do that now. We need people to notice that part A even needs to go into part B.
Well, I want to get to some reader questions we had, because we had a few good ones. Stephanie, she wanted to know what's the most recent dip that you went through and how you got through it.
The dip is what I call it when you are at the moment when most people quit. So that's what happens in February at the gym. Everyone joins the gym in January, we know this, and almost no one goes in March. Somewhere between January and March, the people who are going to remain unfit are the ones who quit. And just the people who stick it out, they're the ones who get into shape. Or medical school, right? Lots and lots of people are pre-med, and then organic chemistry hits. That's the dip. That's the moment that separates the people who are going to be doctors from the people who quit at the predictable moment. And what I argued in the dip, the shortest book I've written, is you have two choices. Either start a project knowing where the dip is, planning and organizing to have the resources to get through the dip, or don't start the project at all. But to start a project and quit in the dip is inexcusable. And getting through to the other side, to be the best in the world, and I wrote this a long time ago, like that book came out 8 or 10 years ago, is underrated. That when you think about how we search for anything on Google now, we type in what we want, and the one that's rated the best is one we want. No one goes to number 4. Why would we? You can have anything, pick
Right.
the best one. So the goal is to be the best in the world. So this course we're running, the Alt MBA, isn't like every other online course. It's fundamentally different. Draw any XY grid and put Udemy here and Skillshare here and all the other ones. And I've done those courses and I'm proud of them. We're going to be on this side. So those courses are free. This course is expensive. Those courses have dropouts. No one drops out of our course. Those courses are pretty easy. This one's really, really, really hard. Those courses you can put a little bit of time in. This one's 6 hours a day for 30 days without stopping. So, those courses you do yourself. This course is a group thing. So we just intentionally went all the way over here.
Yeah.
And you're working on it and you're working on it. And you're thinking about it. And then you say, I don't think it's going to work. And that's the dip right there. Because there's a whole bunch of reasons it might not work. And the easiest thing to do in that moment of truth is to say, yeah, go on to the next thing. And in this case, I was committed. And so we didn't. And we shipped. And the course ends in 3 days. And it was great. The first session, we're going to do it again. But the first session was fabulous and exceeded our expectations because the students were so great.
We had another question from Randy, and he wanted to know if you ever would have guessed that your ideas, your concepts are now, standard business phrases. For example, someone told him that one of his ideas was a purple cow idea, which made his day. Did you anticipate that? Did you have any idea the kind of impact you would have?
I had the audacious pronouncements of a good marketer from the beginning. So I did the first line of really good educational computer games in 1983. And you can see an article, an interview I did with Playboy, the Women of Mensa issue, in which I described how the online literature we were creating was going to profoundly change the landscape. Well, it's 30 years later, it's starting to happen. I didn't think it was going to take 30 years. So making those sorts of pronouncements, we did a 600-page almanac for business people, and I said to the publisher, this is going to change the way every business gets its data. So, you have to act as if you want to draw a picture of a future that you're working toward. My goal isn't to sell books. It never has been. My goal is to make conversations happen. And the idea that people are having conversations about what a purple cow is, even if they don't know there's a book, even if they don't buy the book, that's what you're trying to make happen. All of us can do this today. This is not about Seth Godin. I need to say that 6 times. This is about anyone with a laptop. If you got a laptop, you can reach all 2 billion people that are online. If you got a laptop, you have access to Wolfram's math tools. If you got a laptop, you have access to the biggest photo app. Go down the list. It's all available. If you want to sing, sing. If you want to dance, dance. Here's a microphone. And it's a mistake to follow in my footsteps because the snow was different when I started walking down this trail. Your footsteps. You know, we don't need the next Seth Godin. There already is one. We need the next you.
So looking back, even though you don't like to talk about yourself, I'm like directly going to go back to you, even though you just said that whole rant. And what's been the absolute best part and the absolute worst part?
Okay, so I would say the best part of it is watching people grow. That's what I'm hooked on ever since I was a canoeing instructor in Canada. Can someone who doesn't believe? Can someone who doesn't achieve? Can someone who doesn't care start to care? That when I see those things happen, that is enough for me to try to do the next thing. And the worst thing is watching people who have been seduced into being selfish. I don't think anyone is born selfish, but I think that if you are surrounded by people who are afraid enough, they can trick you into thinking that being selfish is what you're supposed to do. And this is the greatest moment for so many of us. There are still too many people on earth who don't have enough to eat, who don't have a safe place to sleep, who don't have access to medical care. We have all of those things. We have this magical device in our pocket that couldn't have been built at any price 15 years ago. We have, if you can read Pinker's book, the safest planet there has been on a per capita basis since we started recording history. That we are more safe, more likely to be able to pursue our dreams than at any time before. The Gini index is a disaster. The 1% is out of control. There's all these problems, for sure. But anyone who has the resources to watch you and I talking has the resources to make things better. And we could complain or we could make things better. Let's do both.
Now, just a few last questions. What's interesting is, like, at the start of this interview, you said, you know, you didn't feel like it was very productive to talk about you, which I'm here to talk about you. But
you didn't warn me.
I when I was looking you up, and I mean, I've been a follower for 5 years. I couldn't remember if you were married, didn't know if you had kids. And I think you would probably say, well, people aren't interested in that. That's not true. And so I was wondering if that was intentional or if it just happened because you're so obsessive about your work.
Yeah, well, that's up to them. Let them find their path. They're not extras in the Seth Godin show. This isn't about me. It really isn't about me. It's about the work. It's about the work the reader does. It's about the work the student does. And the more I bring myself into it, the more confusing it becomes for no good reason.
And again, I think a lot of people would love to get to sit down with you, even though it's about them. But and I know you said that you don't do meetings and you'll turn down coffee after coffee or lunch request after lunch request. And maybe they are probably a beginning writer would be most of the people watching, but maybe a beginning entrepreneur or a beginning marketer. And they're probably, you know, just trying to figure out their next step. What is your number one piece of advice you would tell those people?
Don't seek reassurance. Reassurance is futile. I can't give you infinity reassurance, and that's the amount of reassurance you think you need. Don't look for a map. Make a map. Understand that feeling is what work feels like. You don't have to dig a ditch for a living anymore, right? It's not your muscles that are going to get tired. It's that feeling you feel when you say, I don't know how to make a map. That's the only thing you're going to get rewarded for. So the minute someone gives you a map, you're a burger flipper. You need to say, what map can I draw? It doesn't have to be giant. No one's asking you to fix the world healthcare system.
Right.
We're asking you to start and then start and then start. So this isn't about being 55 years old and having, you know, left some paper behind. This is about realizing this connection machine that we built for our economy now is not about preening or measuring your leverage or your power or your clout score. This is about, can you connect people and ideas and make a difference.
Well, thank you so much for letting us come invade your space and pick your brain today. I really appreciate it. We will be right back after this.
Here are my key takeaways on achieving success from my interview with Seth Godin. Number 1, focus on making a difference. He made it clear right off the bat in our interview that he was not interested in making money, and he was not watching the numbers of followers or stock prices or the number in his bank account, calling that a race to the bottom. Number 2, the goal is connection. He says if you can foster connection and trust with people, you will be successful. You won't have trouble making a difference or making a living. Number 3, commit to doing scary, great work. His books were rejected over 900 times, so he is definitely committed to his work. He said that one problem facing today's marketers and entrepreneurs and writers is that they're not willing to get through the dip. And one way to stay focused is to look at all your opportunities and realize that for most of those things, you won't make it through the dip, the tough part, which even work that you love has a tough part. Commit at the front end to getting through the dip and stay focused on the meaningful work that you were meant to do. And lastly, embrace uncertainty. Don't seek reassurance because you can never get enough. He said, as soon as you're taking someone else's map and doing what you see to do, you're basically a burger flipper. He said, create your own map. Find a map that you can create. And when you feel like you don't know how to create a map and you don't know what you're doing, that's the work that you'll be rewarded for. He said that working hard to become the best is underrated and the most rewarding work.
Okay, so are you ready for some fast facts?
No.
Okay, well, we're going to do it anyway. Okay, what is the wallpaper on your phone?
It's a picture.
Well, this is going to be a struggle. What is the last thing you remember Googling?
I was just Googling whether or not stamps.com lets you print multiple labels on the Mac.
What is one word that you think you're guilty of using too often?
I used to say just all the time, and I used to have to do a search and replace on my books. One book I had 127 justs.
Wow.
And one by one I had to take them out. Lately, listening to myself doing interviews, sometimes I'm saying okay more than I should.
Okay.
Ding, 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 ding.
What is your biggest pet peeve?
You see, the thing about peeves is they make bad pets.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I know you don't watch TV, but what is your favorite source of entertainment?
I guess I would say listening to jazz on my living room stereo.
Which leads me to my next question. What is your jam right now? What music?
There's been a lot of Art Blakey being played. Keller Williams is always in heavy rotation. I just got a new record yesterday. I was listening to the drum solo from Birdman, which is really worth listening to.
Awesome. Favorite snack?
So the food thing is really a wild thing. So the dark chocolate has gotten completely out of control. There's a lot.
So
of
there's
dark
some
chocolate.
area in your life where you're not super disciplined, and
The dark chocolate's a real problem.
awesome. Okay, favorite cereal?
Oh, I used to love cereal.
Did you cut cereal out?
Yeah, I had to stop eating wheat.
Oh,
I used
that's
to
a lot of
love
cereals then.
Yeah.
Pretty much all of them.
But like you would be a mixture of Total
Very excited.
and then honey bunches of oats.
Okay.
And then you'd goose it up with some blueberries and put some almond milk on top,
Oh
super
my gosh.
cold. I could eat that all day long.
And now you can't. It makes me so sad for you. I'm kind of sad I asked that.
Me too.
What is your favorite blog to read?
I read hundreds of blogs a day.
Really?
And I would say, for someone who wants advice, go look up XKCD. Totally different way of looking at the world.
Awesome. And your favorite podcasts?
Brian Koppelman does a fabulous job on The Moment. I was just on that today. And 99% Invisible is magical.
Magical. Okay, and what were you doing before we arrived for this interview?
Other than Googling the answer to your other... It's another two-part hidden question. We were just talking about how to be more clear in the project we're doing in the Alt MBA, project number 10.
And what are you going to do directly after this interview?
I'm going to go home and make dinner for my family.
which he does have a family, if anyone was wondering. Well, thank you so much. He has generously offered to give away an autographed copy of...
Which book do you want? Jay Levinson, Seth Godin, Get What You Deserve, How to Guerrilla Market Yourself. Jay passed away just recently.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that would be perfect.
I would be happy to do that.
Okay, so go to thepursuit.tv/Seth Godin to make sure you enter for the giveaway and check out more interviews and information from him. To learn so much from this man, go to SethGodin.com and
click on my head.
Click on his head. So thank you so much again. We can't thank you enough. And
it's a pleasure.
I am Kelsey Humphreys, and this has been another episode of The Pursuit.